April 12, 1934, 02:14 a.m., outside a secluded farmhouse near Joplin, Missouri. The sound of a Ford V8 engine idling is the only thing cutting through the thick, humid silence of the Midwest night. Inside, the air smells of stale tobacco, cheap perfume, and the metallic tang of a cleaned Browning automatic rifle. Bonnie Parker coughs, a dry, rasping sound that rattles her small frame. Next to her, Clyde Barrow grips the steering wheel, his knuckles white. They aren't supposed to be here. Not tonight. Not at this house. Click. The sound of the safety being disengaged on Clyde's pistol echoes in the cramped cabin. He looks at the darkened windows of the farmhouse belonging to Silas the Ghost Vane, the premier gunsmith for the Tri-State Syndicate. To understand how the most wanted couple in America ended up shivering in a driveway they were warned never to enter unannounced, we have to look at the crumbling walls of their empire. The Barrow gang was bleeding. Not just blood, but resources. Their usual stashes were being raided by the Bureau. Their friends were turning into informants for a chance at the mounting bounty. They needed heavy iron, something to punch through the armored shutters of the banks in Louisiana. Silas was their only hope, a man who lived by a single rule: I find you, you never find me. Clyde kills the engine. The silence that follows is heavy, suffocating. He steps out, his boots crunching on the gravel like bone breaking. He approaches the door, Bonnie trailing behind with a sawed-off shotgun hidden under her coat. They expected a greeting, perhaps a tense standoff with Silas's guards. Instead, they find the front door ajar, swinging slightly in the wind. A faint, rhythmic dripping sound originates from the hallway. Clyde pushes the door open with the muzzle of his gun. The smell hits them first, not gunpowder, but expensive cologne mixed with the copper stench of an open vein. As the flashlight beam cuts through the dark, they see him. Silas isn't alone, and he isn't working on guns. He's on his knees, surrounded by men in charcoal overcoats, men who don't look like local outlaws. They look like Chicago. Clyde freezes. He realizes that the man who armed the revolution was just a pawn in a much larger, much deadlier game. The legend says they were the hunters, but in that hallway, they realized they were just the bait. 10 minutes earlier, the interior of Silas Vane's workshop. Before the Ford V8 pulled into the driveway, the workshop was a sanctuary of lethal precision. Silas Vane was a man of cold habits. He didn't care about politics or the Robin Hood image the papers gave Bonnie and Clyde. To him, they were just high-risk clients with a high-volume need for lead. But Silas had a secret debt. You don't get high-grade military hardware in the middle of a depression without making deals with the devil. The devil, in this case, was Frank Nitty's expansion into the South. The Chicago outfit wanted the Wild West outlaws gone. They were drawing too much federal heat to the profitable, quiet corridors of organized crime. You told us they were coming Wednesday, Silas, a voice whispers in the dark. It's smooth, educated, and utterly devoid of mercy. This is Leo the tailor Marcello, a man sent from the city to clean up the Barrow nuisance. Silas is sweating, his hands trembling as he tries to assemble a Colt monitor. They're unpredictable. I told you, Clyde doesn't follow a calendar. He follows the moon and the law's tail. The room is dimly lit by a single hanging bulb that flickers with the wind. The walls are lined with blueprints of bank vaults and crates of ammunition. It's a temple of violence. Marcello picks up a photograph from Silas's desk, a grainy shot of Bonnie smoking a cigar. He sneers. They're amateurs, Silas. They're a circus act, and you're the one providing the lions with their teeth. The decision was made long before Bonnie and Clyde arrived. The syndicate didn't just want the Barrows dead. They wanted to send a message to every small-time crook from Dallas to Chicago. The era of the independent outlaw is over. As Clyde's car pulls in, Marcello smiles. He doesn't reach for a gun. He reaches for a telephone wire, severing it with a quick, practiced motion. He wants Silas to feel the isolation. Back in the present, Clyde stares at Marcello's men. He sees the silk ties and the polished shoes. This isn't a shootout with a sheriff. This is a confrontation with a machine. Clyde realizes that while he was playing checkers with the law, the outfit was playing chess with his life. 02:20 a.m., the kitchen of the Vane farmhouse. The air is thick with the scent of burnt coffee and ozone. Bonnie stands by the door, her thumb hovering over the hammer of her shotgun. Her eyes dart around the room, taking in the details. The overturned chair, the blood spatter on the white lace tablecloth, and the three men in suits standing over Silas. "Clyde," Bonnie whispers, her voice a low rasp. "We need to go. Now." But Clyde Barrow doesn't move. He's staring at Leo Marcello. Clyde knows that if he turns his back now, a Tommy gun will open up on his spine before he hits the porch. He has to negotiate his way out of a grave he just walked into. "I didn't know Silas was hosting the city council tonight," Clyde says, his voice steady, though his heart is hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Marcello steps forward, the light catching the gold ring on his pinky. "Mr. Barrow, you're shorter than the papers say. And you, Mrs. Parker. You look tired. Running from the law is a young man's game, but you both look like you've lived 3 lifetimes in 2 years." The tension is a physical weight. One of Marcello's men, a brute with a broken nose, shifts his weight, his hand resting on the grip of a submachine gun tucked under his arm. "We just came for the order," Clyde says, gesturing to the crates. "We pay. We leave. We don't care about your business in Chicago." Marcello laughs, a dry, hollow sound. "That's the problem, Clyde. Your business is our business. Every time you rob a bank, the feds increase their budget. Every time you kill a deputy, they pass a new law. You're making it very hard for professional businessmen to operate in the shadows." He gestures to Silas, who is sobbing quietly on the floor. "Silas here was going to set a trap for you, a nice little ambush in the Black Cat Cafe next week. But you arrived unannounced. You ruined a very expensive plan." The realization hits Bonnie like a physical blow. Their trusted supplier, the man who knew their every move, had sold them out for a chance to live. Loyalty in the underworld is a currency that devalues every hour. "What's it going to be, Leo?" Clyde asks, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Do we die here, or do we see how many of your boys I take with me?" 02:35 a.m. The workshop, Vane Farmhouse. The standoff holds. Outside, a coyote howls, a lonely sound that emphasizes the isolation of the Missouri woods. Inside, the power dynamic is shifting. Marcello isn't a soldier, he's a strategist. He knows that killing Bonnie and Clyde here creates a mess of bodies, federal investigations, and a trail that leads back to the outfit. "Let's be reasonable," Marcello says, spreading his hands. "You want guns. I want the heat to move elsewhere. Perhaps we can help each other." Bonnie doesn't trust him. She sees the way his eyes linger on the door, calculating the distance. "What kind of help?" she spits. "The FBI is focusing on the Midwest because of you," Marcello explains, walking toward a map pinned to the wall. "But there's a shipment of liquor coming through the Gulf, my shipment. I need the Fed's eyes on the East Coast. If the Barrow gang were to, say, make a very loud, very violent appearance in North Carolina, the pressure here vanishes. It's a suicide mission, crossing half the country with every cop on high alert just to act as a distraction for a mob boss." But Clyde looks at Silas, then at the crates of guns. They are out of ammo, out of money, out of time. "We take the guns now," Clyde says, "and we want the payroll for the distraction. 5,000 up front." Marcello signals to his man with the broken nose. The man reaches into a leather bag and tosses a stack of bills onto the bloody table. 3,000 now. 2 when the headlines hit the papers in Raleigh. Silas looks up, hope flickering in his eyes. "Clyde, please, I had no choice. They were going to kill my daughter." Clyde looks at the man who has been his lifeline for years. He remembers the meals they shared, the jokes about the incompetent law. He feels a coldness settling in his chest, a hardening of the soul that comes when you realize no one is coming to save you. "Pack the crates," Clyde orders Silas. As Silas scrambles to comply, Marcello leans in close to Clyde. "One more thing, Barrow. If you fail to make enough noise, if you just disappear into the woods, I will find your mother in Dallas, do you understand?" The price of the guns wasn't money. It was the last shred of Clyde's autonomy. 03:10 a.m. Loading the Ford V8. The rain begins to fall, a cold, biting drizzle that turns the Missouri dirt into a slick, treacherous mud. Silas and Clyde work in silence, hauling heavy wooden crates filled with bars, pistols, and thousands of rounds of .30-06 ammunition. Bonnie stands guard, her eyes never leaving Marcello, who watches from the porch smoking a thin, aromatic cigar. The smell of the tobacco haunts her. It's the smell of wealth, of power that doesn't need to run. "You okay?" Clyde grunts as they slide the last crate into the reinforced trunk. The car sags under the weight. "I feel like we just walked into a trap to get out of a cage," Bonnie whispers. She looks at her hands. They are stained with Silas's blood from the table. "He's going to kill us anyway, Clyde, whether the feds do it or he does." Clyde doesn't answer. He knows she's right. He turns to Silas, who is standing by the car, his face a mask of shame and terror. "You're a dead man, Silas," Clyde says quietly. "The outfit doesn't leave witnesses to their deals." Silas shakes his head. "I can handle them, Clyde. I've been in this game since before you were born. Just go. Get as far away as you can." But as Clyde starts the engine, he sees the shadow of the man with the broken nose moving towards Silas in the rearview mirror. He sees the glint of a piano wire. Clyde has a choice. He could stop it. He could fire a round and save the man who betrayed him. Or he could drive away and use the seconds of distraction to disappear into the rain. The theme of loyalty is a heavy burden. Silas was family in a twisted, criminal way, but the Barrow gang survived on one rule: us against the world. Clyde shifts into gear. The tires spin in the mud, throwing grit against the farmhouse. He doesn't look back. He hears a muffled gurgle, a sound lost to the roar of the V8. "He's gone," Bonnie says, her voice flat. She isn't talking about Silas. She's talking about the world they used to know. April 14th, 1934, a back road near Memphis, Tennessee. The Ford V8 is a rolling arsenal. Every bump in the road causes the crates to rattle, a constant reminder of the deal they made with the devil. They haven't slept in 36 hours. Clyde's eyes are bloodshot, his hands trembling from the sheer amount of caffeine and adrenaline pumping through his system. "We're being followed," Bonnie says, peering through the small rear window. "Cops?" "No. A black Buick. It's been 3 miles behind us since the crossing." Clyde curses. Marcello didn't trust them to hold up their end of the bargain. He sent a tail to ensure the distraction happened exactly where and when he wanted it. The Barrow gang, the legends of the open road, were now being herded like cattle. They stop at a rusted gas station. The attendant, an old man with cataracts, doesn't even look at their faces. He just fills the tank, his eyes fixed on the floor. He knows the car. Everyone knows the car. "We need to ditch the tail," Clyde says, tossing a crumpled bill at the man. He pulls out a map. To get to North Carolina, they have to pass through a series of checkpoints. The ERP law enforcement strategy was in full swing, blockades at every major bridge. Marcello's plan was for them to die at one of these blockades, creating a firestorm of publicity. "If we go through the mountains, we can lose them," Clyde suggests. "The car won't make it, Clyde, not with this weight," Bonnie argues. She points to the crates. "We have enough firepower to start a war. Maybe it's time we stopped running and started fighting." She reaches into the back and pulls out a Browning. She checks the action. Clack, clack. The sound is a promise. As they pull back onto the road, the Buick appears again. It's closer now. The men inside aren't hiding anymore. They want the Barrows to know they are being watched. "They think we're just a show," Clyde growls, flooring the accelerator. "Let's give them a performance they'll never forget." April 15th, 1934, 06:45 p.m., near the Tennessee-North Carolina border. The sun is dipping below the Appalachian peaks, casting long, jagged shadows across the valley. The road narrows as it approaches an old iron truss bridge crossing a swollen river. Clyde sees the flashing lights first. 2 police cruisers are parked across the mouth of the bridge. 4 officers stand with shotguns drawn. They've been tipped off. "The Buick," Bonnie says. "They called it in." Marcello was double-crossing them. He wanted the distraction now, and he wanted it to be their final stand. By tipping off the local police, he ensured a bloodbath that would dominate the national news for weeks. "Hold on!" Clyde shouts. Instead of braking, he slams the Ford into 3rd gear. The engine screams, "Bonnie, the rear!" Bonnie climbs into the back seat, pushing aside the luggage. She cracks the rear window and slides the barrel of the bar out. She doesn't aim for the cops. She aims for the Buick that is closing the gap behind them. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat. The heavy rounds chew through the Buick's radiator. Steam explodes from the hood. The car swerves, skidding sideways and blocking the narrow road, preventing the police from easily reaching the barrows. Clyde steers the Ford directly at the police cruisers. "Get down!" The officers fire. Buckshot peppers the windshield, starring the glass. Clyde ducks, driving by instinct and the sliver of vision left in the corner of the frame. The Ford slams into the side of the lead cruiser, the reinforced bumper shearing off a headlight. They are through. But the Ford is limping. A tire is shredded, and oil is leaking onto the hot engine. They escaped the trap, but they left a trail of fire and blood that even the Chicago outfit couldn't hide. April 16th, 1934. A deserted logging camp, North Carolina. The car is dead. It sits under a canopy of pine trees, its heart stilled by the chase. Clyde sits on a stump, cleaning a wound on his arm where a glass shard had embedded itself. Bonnie is leaning against the trunk, staring at the crates of guns that cost them everything. They are in the distraction zone. They have reached the place Marcello wanted them. "We did it," Bonnie says, her voice hollow. "The news is everywhere. Barrow gang terrorizes the Carolinas. Marcello got his wish." "And what did we get?" Clyde asks. He opens one of the crates they hadn't used yet. He expects to see more rifles. Instead, he finds something that makes his blood run cold. Beneath a thin layer of ammunition boxes are stacks of documents. They are ledger books from the Chicago outfit, records of bribes, names of judges, and lists of federal agents on the payroll. Silas hadn't just been arming the barrows. He had been the dead drop for the syndicate's most sensitive information. Marcello wasn't just trying to kill Bonnie and Clyde. He was using them to transport the evidence out of a hot zone in Missouri and into a safe zone in the east. They weren't just a distraction. They were the unsuspecting couriers for the very people trying to destroy them. "If we turn this over to the Feds," Bonnie starts, "they'll kill us before we reach the courthouse," Clyde finishes. "The names in this book, they are the Feds." The weight of the realization is more crushing than the threat of the electric chair. They are small fish in an ocean filled with monsters. Their legend was a campfire story compared to the institutional evil recorded in these pages. "We aren't outlaws, Bonnie," Clyde says, looking at the ledgers. "We're just the mailmen." April 17th, 1934, the interior of a stolen Chevrolet. They burned the Ford. They burned the ledgers. But the knowledge remained. Clyde drives toward Louisiana. He's done with the outfit. He's done with the distraction. He wants to go home, even if home is a circle of fire. "Marcello will know the books are gone," Bonnie says. She's braiding her hair, a calm, methodical action that scares Clyde more than her screaming ever did. "Let him come," Clyde says. "We still have the bars. They have reached the end of the line. The effect legend is at its peak. Every newspaper in the country has their picture on the front page. They are the most famous people in America, and the loneliest. The theme of the journey has shifted from survival to legacy. Clyde realizes that they won't grow old. There is no quiet retirement in Mexico. There is only the road, the gun, and the inevitable. "Was it worth it?" Bonnie asks suddenly. The banks, the running, the blood at Silas's house. Clyde thinks about the feeling of the wind in his hair when he's doing 80 on a dirt road. He thinks about the way Bonnie looks at him when they escape another trap. "I'd rather be dead with you than alive in one of those suits in Chicago," he says. They pull into a small town in Louisiana to get food. They see a poster on a telephone pole. It's not a wanted poster. It's a newspaper headline, "Syndicate Cleanup, Key Witnesses Silenced in Missouri." Silas was gone. Marcello was safe. The machine had won. "One last job," Clyde says. "But this one isn't for money. It's for us." May 23, 1934, 09:15 a.m., a lonely stretch of road in Bienville Parish, Louisiana. The sun is bright, blindingly so. The birds are singing in the bushes. It's a beautiful day to die. Clyde is driving a tan Ford V8, similar to the one they lost. Bonnie is eating a sandwich, her lap covered in crumbs. They are tired, so incredibly tired. They see a truck parked on the side of the road. It's Ivy Methvin's father. Clyde slows down. He knows it's a risk, but loyalty, that cursed theme, draws him in. He wants to help a friend. As the car slows to a crawl, the woods explode. 6 lawmen led by Frank Hamer open fire. They don't call out for surrender. They don't give them a chance to reach for the guns Silas gave them. They simply erase them. The 167 rounds tear through the steel, the glass, and the flesh. In those final seconds, Clyde doesn't think about the Chicago outfit or the ledgers he burned. He thinks about the smell of the perfume Bonnie wore at Silas's house. The legend ends here, but the story of what they saw at the gun supplier's house, the true nature of the power that runs the world, dies with them. The police find the guns in the back. They find the empty crates. But they never find the truth about why Bonnie and Clyde were in Missouri that night. The smoke clears. The silence returns to the Louisiana woods. The world remembers them as monsters. They died knowing they were just the only ones who refused to wear the suit. Bonnie and Clyde lived by the gun, and they died by the gun. But their final days were spent in the shadow of a much darker force, one that exists even today in the halls of power and the backrooms of the elite. What would you have done? Would you have taken the deal with the syndicate to survive, or would you have burned the world down just to prove you were free? Let us know in the comments. Like the video if you felt the tension, and subscribe to dive deeper into the dark chapters of history. Until next time.